All right, we are live. We are live. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I will be solo tonight. My partner, Marlon, will not be with us. He has some business to handle. So just wanted to give him a shout out. Thanks for all of his support and putting this all together and getting it all up and running. So we'll get right into it tonight. We're going to continue to talk. Last week, we talked about some of the new policies and some of the things that Biden has been going back and forth with, and changing all of the executive orders that that he is changing from Trump's administration into his own administration. And so today we just want to kind of talk about some of those things, some current events. First current event, let's all get out the way. I know that the big thing that people are talking about is the Robin Hood, um, all of uh, the little men buying up GameStop stock, and so it's stopping the big conglomerates of slush funds or hedge fund departments and companies, and how they just demolish all these companies whenever they feel like they want to. And so the little man stepped in and showed them a lesson, and now all of a sudden it's caused a lot of uproar. And so, um, what do these, what do these things show, and what do these type of situations um, bring about when the big guys start to get scared, that the little guys, the little men and women, when they start to take their power back, they start to get scared, and they start to put in bills, and they start running to the government for protection. And so they've already started to talk about it. I've heard that the SEC already has fined Robinhood because of what happened. And if you don't know what happened, a group of people decided to invest a lot of money into GameStop, as another hedge company started to, what they call, uh, I guess they wanted to take them out, and they started to bad talk them and say that there's a bad company. So what they do is they buy a whole bunch of stocks in these companies, and then they talk bad about them and get people to start to sell their stock, and start to move these companies out of the way. And as they start to dissipate, these hedge funds start to sell on the downside, which I'm not a real I don't know a lot about trading and day trading, but I know that it's been going on for a long time, and these hedge funds have been manipulating the market in their favor for forever. It's something that they've been doing for a while. And so this group of people from Reddit, a chat uh, group of people from a chat line app, they all banked their money together, and they started to buy the stock in GameStop, and the stock kept on going up and going up, and everybody started getting into it and getting into it, and it rose. And in that process, the hedge fund lost a lot of money because they had to pay when everybody sold. And so those things um, are not supposed to happen. The little man can't stick up for these little companies and do things like that. They basically propped up this company, and propped it up through buying their shares. And so it's been a hot topic. Um, Warren, what's her name? Um, Elizabeth Warren came out publicly and said that we need to investigate and this can't happen again. And, again, these huge government officials who've been making money off the stock market, insider trades, doing things illegally that me and you couldn't do, um, and making millions and millions of dollars, getting the inside information of different stocks and different pharmaceutical um, procedures or medicine before it comes on the market, and dumping their money into um, these companies before that product comes out, or the, the, the medicine, whatever it is, buying land before it gets approved. Um, and then they buy the land, and then it gets approved for big, huge um, re-renovation or some kind of building on that land, and then they turn around and sell it for big money. This happens all the time, and those are the things that we're bringing about on Gorilla Truth. We're saying this stuff can't happen anymore. Um, the big government that is taking away the rights of the little man, but also benefiting as those rights start to dissipate, and that's what's happening. Um, so that's kind of the big stuff they're looking at. That was the big thing that happened in the last couple days. Elizabeth Warren. I'll show you the actual article, and she's asking. Elizabeth Warren calls for the SEC to investigate potential market manipulation, um, call, causations against cautions against internet trading schemes, a flash mob of with money, and they're talking about Robinhood and these free day trading apps that anybody can use, and they've opened up the market so that people like me and you can actually um, go into the market without what I call a bookie. I know that that's not their name, but without a broker, being a part of a brokerage firm to trade. And so Senator Elizabeth Warren has called upon the U.S. Secretaries of and Exchange Commission to investigate the potential market manipulation. And so it's called market manipulation when it doesn't benefit them. But when it was benefiting them and they were putting the squeeze, um, and the hedge fund was what they call short sellers, and so they were selling the GameStop stocks, and now all of a sudden it's manipulation, and they have to investigate. And so it's just the cronyism, the fakeness that we hate here at Gorilla Truth, that we want to bring to light. It's sickening. And so those are that was the main thing that happened. There was some big um, executive orders that Biden did this week. One of the worst things. I mean, he is just bringing back all of the evil that Obama put into action as he was a president, and so all those things that Trump had to put into uh, null and void and cancel out. Now Biden is starting to put those things back together. And the first thing he did was Biden he's putting together his agricultural team. And so this is his new um, agricultural um, So I'm just going to show you this. The guy that he's put um, into his agricultural head of agriculture was basically the head of Monsanto, and he was the one who, in India, you see this. They this guy went into India, and I'll bring up his name. His name is they call him Mr. Monsanto, Tom Vilsack, and he causes. He's been causing deaths around the world by use basically sucking up the seed industry. And what Monsanto does is they create seeds, and then they put and seed is where the money is in farming. If in Monsanto, what they've done is almost created all the seeds not to reproduce. So you can't reproduce if you have say a corn seed and you planted that corn seed. What you used to be able to do is keep a certain amount of that that stock, or that um, that year's um, plants, take the seeds from those plants, dry them out, and then you would have more seeds to grow the next year. Well, what Monsanto and these huge seed conglomerates have done is created seeds um, that don't reproduce. And what they have done is put the squeeze on the men and women that used to farm and buy and create their own seeds. Now they can't. And so now you have to buy the seeds from Monsanto, and they only last for one season. And this company Monsanto is around the world, and that the FDA, the all of the American Agricultural Department, all of those have signed off on Monsanto and allowed them to wreak havoc around the world. So bad that some of these countries have kicked them out. So you can't have a Monsanto seed in England. They have kicked them out and said absolutely no. Because what they've done is they've deconstructed the DNA of these seeds, and in the deconstruction of the seed, they have sliced in different types of DNA that maybe, you know, I don't think they're doing it on purpose to be harmful to people, but what they're trying to do is make those crops so that you don't need as much nutrients. You don't need to put a whole bunch of insecticides in the corn or in the soy or whatever product, whatever seed it's for. That it's in the DNA. And so they slice and put maybe a spider DNA, the spider that makes a certain smell, in the DNA of the corn. And when the DNA grows, the insects smell that one smell of that the spider DNA, and the insects don't eat it, or they make it poisonous for animals to eat. And so they realize that as the other animals insects eat these things, they die very quickly, and it saves the crops. And so those things sound cool, but they affect our bodies. And so a lot of these countries don't want those type of seeds in our bodies, in their countries, because they know it affects the people that ingest those, um, basically those GMOs, or those genetically modified organisms, they call it GMO. And so it is genetically modified in some kind of way. Now, a lot of farming, I mean, naturally, things have been genetically modified. You could take a corn and cross pollinate with different types of corn to get another corn. Those are all natural ways of genetically modifying seeds. But when you start to use other DNA, fish DNA, insect DNA, um, human DNA, All of these type of things are in the seeds now. And Biden just started back and gave him full rights over the American crops, and people are up in arms. And other countries are saying, why are you putting this guy back into power? All the evil that he's already done when he worked for Monsanto. Okay, so again, Biden putting these criminals back into power. Um, so went over that. What else do I got today? We got some. We want to talk about the Great Reset again. All of the things that Biden is putting into action all come from the idea that um, and so what he is all putting into action through all of these quick executive orders is going back into and supporting this great reset. And so I want to show you an article that just came out today, well, this week, I should say. And it's about so you hear it says world leaders pledge. This came out on the 28th. The world leaders pledge a great reset after the pandemic, and this is what they're hoping for. They're all hoping. And then this is that boy that we talked about last week, Klaus Schwab. He is the founder and chairperson of the World Economic Forum. He's the one that has come up, and we showed you the book last week. Now, everything that Biden is doing is pushing for this great reset. And so now that Biden is back he's in power, all these things you'll see, he'll start to slide in. And he is already using a lot of terminology to hide and put labels. If you listen to what the news is saying, it is very scary. The way that they're silencing people, the words and the terms that they're using. Anybody who is a Republican they're in the Republican cult. It's funny how things that have been turned around, and the people that I have been talking to, and a lot of my friends, and even if you look at the walkaway movement, 200 over 250,000 people walked away from the Democratic Party in the last 4 years. And each and every one of them described it as a veil, a cult, something that they were just told to believe in, something that they were just, that it was just, doesn't matter what they do, doesn't matter who they support, what results they get from the Democratic Party, you had to be a Democrat. And I'm sure on the other side of things, it was the same thing for some families. People were born into Republicans. I'm not saying that there's no difference, but I will say that the one difference is that the policies and the way that people portray or the persona of the Democratic Party is that they're for the people. And so if they were for the people, would they be going and helping this pledge for the Great Reset? I mean, they're looking at the end of the virus, today's world news did not make the trek up the mountain to the world. They're talking about the World Economy Forum. They didn't have one this year, but they're still thinking that what does a reset look like? Schwab and his colleagues are pushing the concept of stakeholders in capitalism. And so what they want is that cronyism capitalism, that fake capitalism that we think America has. We have never had a pure capitalistic country. And so what we have is a whole bunch of rich people who the government allows to be rich and allows to keep their wealth. And then there's us. And that's it. That's not capitalism. And so we can't, it's a new form of socialism, really what it is. And it's taking out the middle class. So there is no middle class. And when a country or an economic entity like America has no middle class, that's when we start to see the fall of the little bit of capitalism that we do have, and it will turn into a full out socialistic country. And that's what we see. We see the rich making, still using the racial divide to divide us at the bottom. So if you don't like me and I don't like you, and we're at the bottom, and I'm white, and you're a person of color, and the belief is that I have um, some kind of ease at life. I have white privilege, whatever that could be, and there are certain privileges. I'm not denying that. But what I also want to say is the minute those white people that were buying the products and trying to help GameStop so it didn't close and the rich people didn't take it. They don't have any privileges now. They're at the bottom. They're not looked upon as white privilege. They're looked upon as the evil scum of the economic ladder, and they're at the bottom, just like me and you. So if we want to keep on believing these lies that they tell us and place brown skin against white skin. But the moment we stand up, we could stand up just like the Reddit, just like those individuals who stood up, put their money together, and, and 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 put those companies back in their places, and even the rich um, politicians, they got scared. And if we would ever just unite, not against political views, but as a human race in America, we could stand up and make a huge change. Um, and some of those things are really what a lot of people are saying. The power, give the power back to the people. And but we keep on handing it over to America. We hand it over to the government. We continually let the government make decisions for us. And now we're in this situation where we might not be able to make any decisions for ourselves, especially if they set in this reset where we talked about it last week, where they said that they're going to mandate you won't own anything. Everything will be given to you. You won't have to worry about anything. You could just live off of the government. They'll got your back. The house won't be yours. The car won't be yours. You won't have the debt. You won't have all that stuff. But where does that stop? where does it begin? Where does it stop? Who chooses who gets what in this situation? We talk about the healthcare. Biden is putting together and putting in all of the things that Trump stopped in the Healthcare Act. That was, you know, some people believe it was against the Constitution, unconstitutional, and it was a tax. So the way that um, the Healthcare Act was the only way it works is if everybody is involved and if everybody pays their full share. So if I can't afford healthcare and I don't have healthcare, then at the end of the year I get fined. When Trump came into power, his first year was going to be the full fine, which was going to be 5 grand per person. If you did not have health care, they were fining you 5 grand. And that money that they were going to get from those fines was the sub basically the money that they needed to put back into the pile so that everybody could get health care. And so even though there were people who could not afford the health care, if if you couldn't afford it, on top of that, you're paying 5 grand a year. So no matter what, you're paying. And if you didn't pay, you wouldn't get your tax money back, and they will continue to take money and garnish it from your check. And so what Trump was saying is that is unconstitutional. That is a tax. And so they really were taxing us if we did not have health insurance. And so he fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said it was constitutional. So that changed a lot of deals. And so what he did was he created an executive order to cancel that out, to say that nobody had to pay. So he couldn't go and do it the right way because nobody was going to vote for it. He tried. Democrats, and at the time, the Republicans didn't have the backbone to stand up to the Democrats at that time. And now he's putting all those things back into play so that if you do not have health care, you will be fined. The other thing that he's doing is President Obama um, furthered the agenda of abortion throughout the world. And he was starting to fund um, different programs in other third world countries. So he's taking our tax money, me and your tax money, the money that we make and goes to the government. He's taking that money and sending it over to other countries so that they can set up abortion centers and under the umbrella of women's rights. And so a lot of these other countries don't even want them there, and they're forcing themselves in there. Um, some of those countries feel like uh, it is inhumane to allow women to have abortions. So we are forcing our ethical, moral values on countries that do not deem it moral, and actually deem it immoral. And so, where does the line get drawn? Where do we stay out of other countries and and force other countries to adopt what we deem moral? So, if we think that it is the woman's right to allow to have an abortion, how does that work in Uganda, or Ghana, or Zimbabwe, or South America, third world countries? And where do we start to realize that why do these rich people want to set up shops in poor areas to kill babies. Where does that lead? Where does the money train go? Where what are they getting out of these basically abortion centers? We already know that they're stealing the stem cells. We know that they're stealing body parts and selling them. We know that they're putting it in our foods. We know that they're using it for our drugs, even in the great COVID-19 vaccine. There is human DNA. I just read an article today that the RNA shots that they are giving us, those RNA shots, we are hoping and praying that that it will be against what they say it is, which is the COVID-19 um, the COVID-19, not the vaccine, but the actual COVID-19 virus. What if the vaccine is not for the virus? What if the RNA doesn't work for the virus, but later on, maybe next year, they put something else in the air? Maybe it works only when we have cigarette smoke and that goes in our bodies, and all of a sudden our bodies attack the cigarette smoke and we can't tell why, and it keeps on attacking until everybody who has cigarette smoke dies and we have no idea. So we're just trusting. Imagine if China put something in our bodies that at any point all they would have to do was give us something for that RNA to react in our bodies, and it would kill our own selves off. Would that be the master plan? Wouldn't that be something in a movie that you would see? So there's a lot of craziness that goes on um, in these science labs that we have no idea. Almost every single one of the major scientists that put together these vaccines were all connected to China. The companies were connected to China. Obama allowed these companies to be connected to China. It's crazy. And then we turn around and we hope and put our faith in these vaccines and this medicine when it was people here illegally who should have never been here. Never allowed. It wasn't until Obama allowed other countries to come into America and work on vaccines and these types of medical situations like pandemics. He opened that up to a communist country who first and foremost hates our guts and is trying to take us out and has been trying to take us out for years. And so he's allowed those people to come in and actually work with our technology and use our technology and then go back to their country and do whatever they want to do with that information. And those are the things that are, when we say we want to make America great again, we're saying those are the things we want to close the border to. We don't want to open our border up and allow people to come in and steal um, the rights, the medical rights away from the people that actually live here, that pay for those test studies and pay for all those buildings that it goes in. They're all federally funded. So we pay the money. These other countries come in, they take that information and they go back to their own countries. What if they want to hurt us? We don't know. We have no idea. I mean, it's just like 9/11, how we gave 9/11 a 19-year-old Saudi Arabia flying lessons, and he told the captain, told the school, I don't need to learn how to land. I just need to know how to take off and fly. Next you know, they're crashing into the World Trade Center. America has become the most, it seems like we've become this country that is so ignorant to the people that want to hurt us, to the people in government who do not have the best intentions for our lives. They just want to make money off of us. We become so numb and so gullible that they can feed us this racial nonsense. I'm not saying there's not prejudiced people out there, but how could we say that our country is not better today than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago? 40 years ago? When people couldn't even use certain bathrooms. But yet, somehow, the, the media, the government have put targets on each one of our backs. And they just point to them. See what they're doing? See, it's their fault. They're taking your piece of the pie. They've done it in other countries with religion. Just seems that in this country, both black and white and Hispanic are mostly Christian, so they can't use religion. They have to use race. And that's the bottom line. So another crazy thing that I found out today, I'm going to show you. This is crazy because it all ties in. One of the most crooked families in America. And if you look at the people who are standing up for Joe Biden and this craziness is going on, you'll see Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and you'll see George W. Bush. And so I'm going to show you today, right before Bush Sr. died, he was brought up on charges. And I don't know if you knew about this. I never knew. But I'm going to show you the indictment. So this is the indictment, the paperwork, and of George W. Bush Sr., or it's not W, it's George H.W. Bush, I should say. So it's kind of hard to see, but I'm just going to go through. Basically, what happened was he broke some laws and actually changed some laws, and he was in conspiracy to undermine the national mining laws. And what he did was he changed laws and regulations in the mining industry, and it affected different countries. And if you see this, it includes laws in South Africa in full violation of the FCPA. And what happened was, um, I don't know how many. It says here, and so that he's got talks about illicitly illegal. The results of the actions, over 10,000 settlers were nearly evicted off their lands, and the state law of Nevada or even Montana. The new land patent deeds holds priority titles over any claim by the government. A conspirator by the name of Harry Reid was allowed to kill more than several ranchers as a result of George W. Bush moves with Barrack Gold, Barrick Gold, which is another company from Canada. So basically, they were just taking people's land. There was some information that also some trafficking involved in it. I want to bring that part up. Evidence of it involves moving the settlers out, defrauding the government, and moving the operators tied to Barack Gold, Nevada. Are stripped all residents of their land patent deeds. Um, there was also accused defendant giving his past in child trafficking. Um, so they're basically talking about even in his own past, talking about George H.W. Bush. The accused George Bush is already hospice ridden and his wife has passed on. Yet that will not alter submission and guidelines. He will be made to answer every charge on record with detailed responses. So even though he was in hospice, they put him and they made him answer questions. And it was a formal tribunal grand jury. It was not something normal. That was a tribunal, which is a government basically run. Um, So there was activities of money laundering, racketeering, and extortion were uncovered, which will be aired. We note that your honors that the accused may not use the bad memory syndrome. So he was basically saying he can't use that. I'm old. I can't remember all of this. It also talks about alleged now that more than 100 miners were killed in a sudden accident in sudden accidents. This was done which the willing concert of the Black Eagle Trust, which that we will prove on record. In the course of these events, massive child trafficking was conducted because they were using child labor, stealing children, and using them for the mines. And this is George W. Bush. These are the people that 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 we think that go on and talk bad about how Trump was a tyrant, that he was a Nazi. But meanwhile, he was going over to these third world countries, raping and pillaging, stealing money from third world countries, Africa, South Africa, all through Tanzania, it said, and some other countries. I think it says the Congo, um, and they were just taking money um, and changing laws. And these are the people that have stood up and stood with Obama, the family, the Bush family, stood with the Clintons. There is no Democrat and Republican in that group, right? They're all crooked. They all have done ills to the small people of this world, including the small people in America. They robbed and stole jobs from the cities. You look at these democratic cities that have been democratic for years. We've talked about this for years. Where where is all this money going? Where is the millions and millions and trillions of dollars that are dumped into these cities? Where is that money going? And who is it helping? Because I don't see it. I don't see it in my hometown. The water's still undrinkable. Gangs are taking over. There is no family. The fathers aren't in the homes. No jobs. You have two choices: Walmart or selling drugs. You might be up to start up your own little business, sell some t-shirts, some hats. You might have a little record spot, a little food spot. But how long does that really last? You can't do it legit because you can't pay the taxes on it. And now COVID hits, what are you going to do? So that's why I'm going to continue to say Nasara still there. It's still being worked out. It's the only way that this world is going to move forward in peace and prosperity. But we allowed, oh, I did hear today too, um, New York and several other states are now finally looking at the voter fraud. Now that Trump is out, now they made it to the courts to actually go through the process of looking at the evidence, where no court looked at the evidence before inauguration day. No court. They said, nope, stand down. We're not going to even look at it. And now all of a sudden, New York looked at it. I believe Pennsylvania is looking at it now, and one other state is looking at it. I want to say even Texas. I think it was Texas is looking at some voter fraud. So all of a sudden, now people are looking at it. It's crazy. So we got that. Talked about the censorship. We talked about the one thing I didn't talk about is how creepy Joe Biden is. We talked about who he's putting into place. Um, talked about some of the things that are going on with his executive orders. We're going to have to see. We're seeing people waking up. I've heard several black correspondents saying what's going on. So I think they just threw out today. I don't know when it was, yesterday or the end of the week. My days are all kind of blurred together, but Black Lives Matter is getting a peace peace prize. So maybe that'll shut some people up and see how they gain some respect or something. They did something that's going to change policy, where we know there's a lot of people who don't even align with their um, morals and their what they stand for. And I would say a majority of my friends do not stand for what they stand for. Now, does the statement make sense? Yeah, the statement makes sense. The movement. Black lives do matter. And there's some serious issues that we need to face in America. But again, they're going to ponder. They're going to hand you a peace prize. Say everything's better. Matter of fact, here instead of that 600 that we gave you last month, there's $2,000. There's $2,000 and a peace prize. Shut your mouths. And we're going to keep on going around the same circle over and over again. So I'm going to show this video, see if I can. But once they get moved off, they don't drink milk ever again. Okay? So they become, yeah, some cats, sometimes. All right, I'm going to show you this real quick. Share screen. Hopefully I can show you this. I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to kind of fast forward it right here. And so this is the guy who is our president. And if Donald Trump did anything like this, you best believe it would be all hell would break loose.
Thank you. All right, well, nice to see you guys.
Look at her face.
Now, this one actually made the news at the time. They said the 13-year-old girl, Margaret Coons, didn't think what Biden said or did was creepy. Except she didn't say anything. It was her father, Senator Christopher Coons, who claims she said that. I reached out to Margaret Coons to clarify whether or not she thought it was creepy and to ask her what Biden said. I received no response. The official story is that Biden was reassuring the girl that his own daughter was 13 when he was sworn in and not to be nervous about being in front of cameras, except that in all the years Biden was sworn in as senator, his daughter was never at the age of 13. But I'm sure that that's all completely normal. In this clip, Biden appears to grope the chest area of a little girl. The close-up shows her visibly pull away right as it happens. But I'm sure that's completely normal. Biden seems to have a thing for touching, smelling, and stroking girls' hair, as seen in this clip. But I'm sure that's completely normal. In this clip, Biden strokes the girl's hair before whispering something in her ear. He then asks for a picture with the girl alone.
Can I have one with just alone?
Senator Jim Risch then says, "Dad's going to stand pretty close."
Dad's going to stand pretty close.
Biden appears to tell the girl, quote, "If I was young."
By the way, if I were young, I'd have to parties.
But I'm sure that's all completely normal. In this clip, Biden kisses a young girl 3 times as she squirms uncomfortably, while he says, Don't tell anybody.
Title. He's entitled. This is a long day. A lot of walking. Don't tell him.
But I'm sure that's completely normal. In this clip, Biden tells a girl, quote, "No serious guys until you're 31," which is one of his favorite things.
And it goes on. There's like 10 more minutes of that craziness. Of him just petting and rubbing. You see his hands all over these children. And at the end of the video, it talks about how Secret Service had to protect the women around him. I guess he groped one of the Secret Service women, and one of the men ended up getting into an argument and getting suspended. We get Pizzagate, right? So true. And so I could just imagine, you know, I hate Trump is out of there, and I don't want to go back. What about this? What about that? But where would the media take those images, and how were those images portrayed? How would they be portrayed if that was Trump? It would be totally different story. And now we got Creepy Joe in power, and he loves to touch and pet. I heard the last video is he learned that little kids like to be on his lap, and he likes little kids on his lap. It's just sick. So we're done. The last thing that I want to update everybody with, me, I'm always gonna, I'm still rooting for. I want to make a correction. I said last week that Trump would be the 17th president. I want to make that correction. He would be the 19th president of the United Republic of America. And so I still believe that that's going to happen. Right now, there is intel, and there's a lot of talks about what's going on in China. The Taiwanese are standing up to the CCP, the Communist Party in China right now. They are also there's some chatter about China, the president or the non-communist leader of China is teaming up with Putin and Taiwan, and they are going to take out the Communist Party, and the Communist Party is on their way out of China, and Trump is working with them continuously behind the scenes with other countries that have supported Trump, and Trump brought on board with Nasara, and so he knows, and we all know that China is out to get us, and we have basically given America over to China, to the Communist Party. Imagine if the Communist Party crumbles and we are allies again with China in the healthy way. How much prosperous this world could be. So look to see what's going on in China. I know that there's been flybys. Some of our warships are out there. There's a lot going on in the South Pacific over there. So keep your eyes on China. I believe we'll hear something going on within the next couple weeks. They're saying February is going to be a month of action. So I'm hoping that some things really fall into place and we can usher in Trump into the 19th president, and Biden and his little goons would all be arrested, taken away to Gitmo for touching and rubbing little kids. So I'm hoping all that kind of stuff works its way out. I know that the sex trafficking is under huge investigations right now, and just last week, another group of people in California got busted with 39 children, and all of them were from the state facilities. We're being told that a lot of this trafficking is all based out of the foster care system. They're going in, they have their people, and they're taking the ones that nobody's going to find out about, and they're trafficking them. And I'm hearing some really, really horrible stories. I watched a video just earlier today. I had to turn it off, of some of the kids that they found and what they looked like when they found them. It's horrifying. I don't understand how people could do this and be a part of it, but it's sick stuff. And so I want to say peace out. Keep on looking for the truth. Next week we'll be back. Marlon will be on, and we'll be bringing the truth once again, man. Peace.
In our own minds, we usually place ourselves in the social class in which we were raised. For me, like many Americans, that means middle class. But the truth is that the social classes in the United States are rapidly pulling away from one another. The emerging class system looks different, with its casual dress codes and somewhat greater variety of skin tones and ethnicities, but we are accomplices in a process that is strangling the economy, destabilizing our politics, and eroding democracy. There's a familiar story about rising inequality in the United States. The villains are the plutocrats, the fat cats, the tech bros, and the rest of the so-called 1%. The good guys are the 99%, also known as the people. In fact, it's the top 0.1% who have been the big winners in wealth over the past 50 years. Their share of the pie climbed from 10% in 1963 to more than 22% today. But not everybody below them had to give up something. Only the bottom 90% did. In between, there's a third group that has held onto its share of the wealth year after year. Let's call it the 9.9%. The 9.9% is rich in more than mere money. It has substantially lower rates of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. It marries later and has more stable family structures. It lives in gilded neighborhoods with richer social networks and vastly better educational opportunities. And it is able to pass all of this along to its offspring, leaving the bottom 90% in the dust. We like to pretend that none of this matters because in the land of opportunity, everybody has a chance to make it. But in fact, social mobility is lower here than in many other developed countries, and it's been going down. Aristocrats take wealth out of productive activities and invest it in walls. They lock themselves and their offspring in place at the expense of other people's children. The escalating inequality of our time appears new, but if you take in a broad sweep of history, starting, say, with the Great Pyramids of Egypt, inequality looks like the norm of human experience. History tells us that aristocrats come to believe in their own propaganda, that their superiority is an artifact of nature. Today's 9.9% has convinced themselves they don't have any privileges, and the delusions are understandable. A strange truth about rising inequality is that even as it locks our privileges in place, it doesn't seem to make things that much easier. That's because the greater the inequality, the less your money buys. Our insecurity grows as the chasm beneath us expands. Rising inequality leads to political instability and typically ends in catastrophic violence. Still, there have been exceptions. America's founders were mostly 9.9%ers, but they turned their backs on the man at the top in order to create a government of, by, and for the people. Reversing the calcifying effects of rising inequality isn't just a matter of helping out the less fortunate. The challenge we face now is to renew the promise of American democracy.